They say your life can change in a matter of seconds. And it certainly did for Michael Blais, but he found the strength to turn this terrible accident into a courageous comeback.
I was at work and trying to unload a container, and the lifting strap broke and it come down on my head and squashed me down to the floor.
After a CAT scan in Watertown, South Dakota, Michael was airlifted to Sanford Hospital in Sioux Falls for surgery on a broken neck.
I couldn't move anything from my shoulders down. I could kind of turn my head a little bit, but I was in a neck brace and we weren't sure if anything was going to move again.
A week later, Michael came to Madonna Rehabilitation Hospitals' specialized spinal cord injury program for injured workers and immediately got to work.
When Michael first got here, we had some issues with his arms. Of course, he had a cervical injury, so his left arm was working better than his right arm. He actually had movement in his legs, and he was up on an Arjo walker and doing some walking on day one.
Using specialized technology like the body weight supported treadmill, the Bioness, and the Madonna Eye Care by Sports Art, Michael saw his mobility and independence soar.
We were doing a lot of different things that would help progress the grasp, which in turn it did. He was able to do quite a bit for himself. Feed himself, get himself bathed, dressed. He was walking with a walker pretty consistently with hands-on assist and doing quite well.
From hands-on assist to hands on the wheel, Michael also went through driver retraining at Madonna, determined to maximize his independence.
We decided that hand controls was going to be the safest thing for him to go forward in driving. So he's independent with getting around and possibly going back to work.
But recovery from an incomplete spinal cord injury is not always linear. Michael's early progress was promising, but setbacks occurred unexpectedly, and his early improvements gave way to new challenges.
We started to have some bouts of numbness, not being able to move as much, and it was going to be more of what was it going to look like from a wheelchair perspective versus that walking perspective.
This is something that can happen, and it happens rarely, but particularly in this case, the damage was done to these nerves, but they were still able to operate at a certain level to allow him to do a decent amount of walking. But with time, the damage that had been done to those nerves was such that those nerves decided to not function at the optimal level. And all the studies came back essentially normal, suggesting that this was just a natural sequela of his particular spinal cord injury.
Kind of had to reevaluate what it was going to look like long-term for him.
This forced Michael's care team to rethink their goals. They worked to maintain the function he had, while also preparing him to live an active and independent lifestyle as a wheelchair user. But despite the setbacks, Michael and his family handled his recovery with grace and quite a bit of humor.
All of it just kept coming together and everything was working out great. I thought maybe the rest would be history, but here we are back in a wheelchair and we're still pushing and fighting to keep what I got. Stopping and not trying anymore ain't gonna get me any further in life. I just gotta be positive and hope for the best.
He was always the jokester. He was playing jokes on everybody and making everybody smile. They've really handled it well, and they're gonna make the most of it. They've got 3 beautiful kids to live that life for.
And a persistent attitude that was truly admirable.
This is kind of like a second chance. I get to be here for my wife and my kids, and just now I gotta build myself back up, show them that we can still do everything. We're just gonna do everything at a different level and showing everybody that there's nothing gonna stop me.